Hey guys, we are going to be continuing some conversation about special right triangles today. Last week we talked about the 45, 45, 90 triangle, and this week we're going to talk about the 30, 60, 90 right triangle. Um, Make sure you do get a piece of paper out. That way you can take your notes. You do need to send me a um, selfie of yourself with the notes. That way I know that you're taking them. Okay, so make sure you are remembering to attach that to your Google Classroom at the end. Okay, there will be a quiz at the end of this that you'll be taking on Alex. But let's go ahead and get started here 30, 60, 90. Okay, now today our triangle we're going to be looking at is the 30, 60, 90 triangle, right triangle, excuse me. And this is a special right triangle where we're able to get the other sides just based on knowing one. Okay. The biggest key is you need to know what the short side is. Okay. So the short side is the side opposite of your 30-degree angle. So there's my short side. And from here, there are two ways to go. I can go from my short side to the hypotenuse. And notice we're going from S, there's my hypotenuse. Okay, there's the hypotenuse. Remember, the hypotenuse is opposite the right angle. Notice that you're just multiplying by 2. Okay, so multiply by 2. Now, if we have to turn that around, if we are starting with the hypotenuse and we're going to the short side, it works in reverse. Okay, we would divide by 2. And that is similar to what you were seeing with the 45, 45, 90. It's just there's different calculations. Okay. The other scenario is working from the short side or the short leg to the long leg. Okay. And if I'm going from the short leg here to the long leg, the only thing that's different is we are multiplying by the square root of 3. So you would multiply by the square root of 3. Now, when that does need to get reversed and you're working the other direction, if you're going from the long to the short, you're going to have to divide by the square root of 3. Okay. And just like we were doing before, it's okay to just use decimals, guys. We're not going to spend a lot of time with things that are like rationalizing a denominator and that sort of thing. So if it does end up with the square root in it, it's okay to leave it as is. Or if you want to just write the decimal, you can write the decimal. I'm okay with either one. Now, let's look at some examples. Okay. So we have ourselves here a 30, 60, 90 triangle. They want us to find both X and Y. So the first thing I need to do is figure out where is the short side. And they labeled my 30-degree angle here. So this is the short leg. The Y, that's the hypotenuse. And the X, that is the longer leg. Okay. So let's go ahead and go through the process. I'm going to go and get the hypotenuse first. So I'm going to go short. I have the short. I'm going to the hypotenuse. And if I'm going from the short to the hypotenuse, remember we're just multiplying by 2. Okay, so I have 4 square root of 3 over 3 times 2. 2 over 1 with the fraction. 4 times 2 is 8, so I have 8 square root of 3 over 3. And I can leave it like this, perfectly fine. If you wanted to write the decimal, that is perfectly fine also. The decimal I'd be getting is about 4.62. Okay, but it's okay to leave it like that. Now, I did this one. Now I need to get the x, so I'm going to go short to my long. And short to long, remember, we are multiplying by the square root of 3. Okay, so short to long, we got 4 square root of 3 over 3 times the square root of 3. Remember, square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3. So I have, right, this is differently, sorry. So I have 4 times 3 over 3. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So the length of the long leg is 4. Okay, my hypotenuse is 8 square root of 3 over 3. The long leg is 4. All right, let's go ahead and look at another example. Okay, and I do want to point out, the key is you're always working with the short leg. Okay, the short leg is going to be a part of each deal. Okay, so I start here. We have this triangle. Triangle ABC. Now they want us to find AB, okay, this one, and they want us to find BC, the hypotenuse. So once again, we're finding both of those, okay? So first thing I need to figure out is I need to know where the short leg is. So they labeled, here's my 30-degree angle. And the one across from that, that is the short leg. So here's my short leg. That means this is the long leg. And that means the y is the hypotenuse. Well, I'm starting here with the long leg. And I have to get the short immediately. Okay? You always have to have, remember, short, if you look back, every single one of these has the short leg as a part of it. So you're always working through the short leg. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the long leg to the short leg. And if you look back at your notes, when you do that, we are dividing by the square root of 3. So I have 4 square root of 3 divided by square root of 3. Well, those will cancel each other out, and I'm left with 4. Okay, so I know that this short leg is 4. Well, I still need to figure out the hypotenuse. Remember, we always use the short leg. So I have short to hypotenuse. Well, if I want to go from the short to hypotenuse, I'm going to multiply by 2. So I'm just going to go 4 times 2, and the hypotenuse is 8. Okay. So this would be y. This would be Rx. Okay. Or I should say it this way. I apologize. This is BC. Sorry. This is AB. And this is BC. All right, let's move on to the next example. Okay. We've seen a couple. I want you guys to go ahead and pause the video. And I want you to try these two. Remember, you're going through the short leg each time. All right, so for this one, there's my short leg. So this is the short leg. This is the long leg. This is the hypotenuse. And I have the short leg. So let's just go ahead and go. Let's get letter A first. We are going short to hypotenuse. So I'm going to multiply by 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. So letter A is 8. For letter B, for this one, I'm going from the short to the large, or the long. And remember, when we do that, we multiply by the square root of 3. So I'm just going 4 times the square root of 3. And there's really nothing I can do to that. If you want to write it as a decimal, you can, but you don't have to. You can leave it just like that. If you did write it as a decimal, you would have 6.93, okay, or 6.9, depending on where you round it. Okay, let's look at number 2. Now for number 2, remember, we're always trying to find where the short leg is. So there's my 30-degree angle. So the y is my short leg. That means that the square root of 3 is the long leg. And the x, that is my hypotenuse. Okay. So let's go ahead and I shouldn't say we don't really have an option. We have to find the short leg first. The short leg has to be a part of it. So let's find y. And we are going long to short. Long to short. If we're going long to short, we are dividing by the square root of 3. So we have square root of 3, that's the length of my long leg, divided by the square root of 3. Well, those cancel each other out, and I get 1. Okay, so my short leg is 1. Okay, now, since I have the short leg, I can go ahead and get my hypotenuse. So we're going to go short to hypotenuse. And remember, when we do that, we multiply it by 2. So we're just going 1 times 2, which is 2. And we're done. Once you go ahead and pause the video and complete these 2 problems. Okay, again, remember, we're always making sure we find where the short leg is. So there's my 30 degrees. Okay, so this is the short leg. This is the long leg. This is my hypotenuse. So we're starting with the hypotenuse now. Now remember, we always have to work with the short leg. Okay, so let's go ahead and we have to figure out y first then. So for y, we're going hypotenuse to short. Well, that means we're going to divide by 2 by our rules we established at the beginning. So hypotenuse to short, so it'd be 8 divided by 2. So that means my short leg is 4. Okay, now that I have the short leg, I can go ahead and use it to figure out my long leg. So short to long, we are multiplying by the square root of 3. So we would have 4 square root of 3. Done. Number 4. Okay. Now, again, they gave us 60. That means this one is 30. So it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. 90 is the right angle. So there's the short side. We have to know where that is. So that means this 9 we have here, that's the long side. The x is the hypotenuse. Okay, so I need to figure out my short side first. So I need to get y. And I'm going from long to short. So that means we're going to divide by the square root of 3. So I have 9 divided by the square root of 3. Now, when I'm in this situation, you could leave it. I don't like to. So let's go ahead. 9 divided by the square root of 3, and we're going to get our decimal here. 5.2 is what it rounds to. Okay. So now I have my short leg, and my short leg is 5.2. And now I can go short to hypotenuse. And that is just multiplying by 2. So let's go 5.2 times 2, and that's going to be 10.4. Now, do keep in mind that these are approximated. Okay. That second one, I didn't label it. I apologize. That was my hypotenuse. That was the x. Okay. So our y is 5.2. Our x is 10.4. All right. Now, this is essentially the homework assignment because there's no extra PDF. I want you to go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to complete these 4 problems. Okay, for this first one, there's my short side. There's my long side. Okay, so I need to figure out the y first. And we are going hypotenuse to short. And hypotenuse to short, remember, we are going to divide by 2. So 5 square root of 3, 5 square root of 6 divided by 2. 5 square root of 6 divided by 2. I can leave it as is. Okay. If I do choose to, I can make that a decimal though. 5 square root of 6 divided by 2. And I'll just go ahead and round to the 10th. I'm getting about 6.1. Okay. So I have the short side. Now I'm going short side to long side. And this is going to be figuring out our x. Now, short to long, we're going to multiply by the square root of 3. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my 6.1. 6.1 times the square root of 3. And since I already have a decimal there, I'm going to go ahead and 6.1 times the square root of 3. And I'm getting approximately, it's right into the 10th again, 10.6. Okay. For number 2, and we got to know our short side. So this is my 30 degree. So there's the short side. There's the hypotenuse. And I'm going to find that short side first. So I got to find y. And we are going long to short. That means we're dividing by square root of 3. So 3 square root of 3 divided by the square root of 3 is 3. So there's that 1. I got my short side. Now I can get my hypotenuse. So I'm going short to hypotenuse to get my x. And my x is going to be 3 times 2, which is 6. All right, number 3. There's my 30. So there's the short side. That means this is the long side. X is the hypotenuse. So let's go ahead and work our way through this. Got to get the short side first. So my y. And I'm going long to short. That means divide by square root of 3. So 7 square root of 3 over 2 divided by the square root of 3. So divided by the square root of 3. Well, these square roots of 3s are going to cancel each other out. And I'm going to be left with 7 over 2. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. Okay. So I got my short side. Now I'm going to figure out my hypotenuse, the x in this situation. So we are going short to hypotenuse. And we're going to multiply by 2. So 3.5 times 2 is 7. So y is 3.5 and x is 7. The last one, there's the short side. So we have the short side. We need to get the long. We need to get the hypotenuse. So let's go ahead and get the long side first. So let's get n. This is going to be short to long. And we're multiplying by the square root of 3. So it's just going to be 6 times the square root of 3. If you want to get the decimal, 6 times the square root of 3, you're going to get 10.4. I'm just rounding to the 10th. I think that's just going to be easier. Okay, to get m, we are going short to hypotenuse, and we just simply multiply by 2. So 6 times 2 is 12. And that's it. Okay, so that's 30, 60, 90. Now, on your quiz, you're going to see a mixture. Okay, you're going to see some 45, 45, 90s from last week and some 30, 60, 90s from this week. So I want to make sure that we practice both of those together. So go ahead and pause the video and complete these 2 problems. All right, so this first one's a 45, 45. So we label it differently. We have the legs and the hypotenuse. Okay. And obviously, if my leg is 4, that means the other leg is 4 in a 45, 45, 90. So I know y is 4. So that part's done because those are equal. And I'm going for the other part from a leg to the hypotenuse. Remember, the rule for that is we're going to multiply by the square root of 2. So my x is going to be 4 times the square root of 2. If I wanted to get the approximation, 4 square root of 2 is about 5.7, rounded to the 10th. Now, the 30, 60, 90 is different. Okay, that's what we've been working on. Remember, you got to find the short side all the time. There it is. Okay, I have the hypotenuse, and this is the long side. Okay, so we got to go through the short first. So we're going to get B. And we're going hypotenuse to short. Hypotenuse to short. Remember, we're going to divide by 2. So we have 6 square root of 3 divided by 2. So that's going to be 3 square root of 3. If you wanted to write the decimal, that's fine. I'd accept it either way. Then I can get A. So I can get the long leg. I'm going short to long. And if I'm going short to long, I'm multiplying by the square root of 3. So 3 square root of 3 times square root of 3. Well, square root of 3 times square root of 3 is 3, and 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so there's those 2. Go ahead and pause video and do 2 more of these. All right, let's look at number 3. Remember, we always got to find the short side. So we got the short side. This is the long side. This is the hypotenuse. So I'm starting off. I'm going long to short. And if I'm going long to short, we're dividing by square root of 3. So 3 square root of 3 divided by square root of 3. Those cancel. My answer is 3. So y is 3. Now that I have the short side, I can get the hypotenuse. So I have short to hypotenuse. We are multiplying by 2. And 3 times 2 is 6. All done. With number 4. Now remember, the 45, 45, 90, these are legs. That's the hypotenuse. Okay, and the legs are equal to each other. So I just got to do this one time. So I'm going to get the answers for both U and V at the same time, really. And I'm going hypotenuse to leg. Okay, and when I do hypotenuse to leg, I'm basically dividing by the square root of 2. So 7 divided by the square root of 2. Can leave it as is. I like to write the decimal for these, and we have square roots on the bottom. So this is 4.9 approximately. Okay. Okay, a few more here together. Okay, got our short side. This is 30, 60, 90. There's the short. That means that's the long. That's the hypotenuse. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get X first because I already have the short. I'm going short to hypotenuse. 30, 60, 90, we multiply by 2. So 9 times 2 is 18. Now I need to go short to long. And short to long, we multiply by the square root of 3. So I'd have 9 times the square root of 3. If I wanted to approximate that, could leave it as is, 9 times the square root of 3, and getting 15.6, approximately rounded to the 10th. For number 6, again, we have the hypotenuse in this 45, 45, 90. We need to get the leg. So we're going to get both answers at the same time. We're going to get both m and n by going hypotenuse to leg. Remember, the legs are the same. Okay, when we go hypotenuse to leg, we are dividing by the square root of 2. So we have 7 square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. Well, those cancel out, so my answer is 7. M is 7 and n is 7. Okay, last couple before we take the quiz. I'm going to pause the video and complete these two. All right, they're starting off here. This is a 45, 45, 90. Okay, so these are my legs. They're the same. So I know right away that V is 5 square root of 2 over 2. Okay. Now, I need to find U. U is the hypotenuse. So I'm going leg to hypotenuse. And if I go leg to hypotenuse, I am multiplying by the square root of 2. So 5 square root of 2 over 2 times the square root of 2. Well, I have to remember square root of 2 times square root of 2 is 2. So I essentially have 5 times 2 over 2. These 2's cancel out. The hypotenuse is 5. The 30, 60, 90. There's my 30. So the n is the short side. The m is the long side. Okay. So we need to go. 12 is my hypotenuse. We need to figure out what n is first. And we're going hypotenuse to short. Hypotenuse to short. Remember, we divide by 2. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. Done. Got my short side. Now, let's get m. Let's get our long side. And we're going short to long. And when we do that, we multiply by the square root of 3. So I have 6 times the square root of 3. If you do want to round that, 6 square root of 3. That rounds to 10.4. Okay. That's a little sloppy. Sorry, guys. 10.4. All right. Don't forget to take a picture of your notes here, guys, and attach that to Google Classroom. And then what I need you guys to do is jump on Alex. There's 5 problems you need to do. Okay. That will be scored as a quiz. Okay. I did set it so that you can look at explanations, but feel free to look at your notes, okay, as you're doing this. And if you have any questions, please get a hold of me to set up a Google Meet. We will talk to you guys next week and hopefully see you sometime here in the near future.